course, is that the Ugandan, I say Ugandan model, and activities of some other African countries who did a lot and does a lot of job and do a lot of job in caring for refugees, trying to integrate them in the host community, with all the deficiencies we also heard. We should not deny that. But we heard about rape and policing and so on. That there should be and must be an international support, that the model, or let's say this approach, is not failing. This was mentioned several times. We heard also in the discussion with the minister, when he was asked by one of the journalists, what will you do if there is no longer any financial support? Now, there was the summit here in Kampala some weeks ago. Money is coming, but not enough. So it's not only about preventing cutting the money, but it is about stepping up and bringing more financial support. Not only financial support, but also the moral support. Because we in Europe, we must recognize more and more that the majority of migrants or refugees are not in Europe. They are in poor countries, in neighboring countries. It's in Africa, like it is when you see the refugees from Iraq and Syria. They are mostly in Lebanon. They are mostly in Jordan and other poor countries, or refugees from Afghanistan in countries like Pakistan and Iran and so on. So I think this is one message we must very clear. Now, speaking about Africa, the African countries, the African governments, the African institutions do the most thing about caring for refugees, and they have very often, also in Uganda, at least from the concept, a more comprehensive concept of integration and inclusion into the host community. Again, not without problems, not without deficiencies, but I think this is very important to underline. The second point was also discussed yesterday. When speaking about youth has to be involved. So we appeal to the EU-African Summit, involve the people you speak about. The young people, especially, including the young migrants. Don't speak only about them and above them, speak with them, involve them in the discussion, but also in the program of implementation. And finally, of course, the whole thing should be done in a way of a partnership, not in that kind of position, we are the rich and now we help the poor, but it must be a real partnership. Now, the major points will be, of course, what EU and AU can do together. I think one of the elements and one of the conclusions is that the younger generation here in Africa, and we saw that in the debate also in this morning, know a lot better what they want to do than many other politicians or senior people. So talk to them, ask them what should be done, and give them the chance to do something. Including exchange programs between EU and AU. It's not only that people should be empowered here in Africa, but also European young people should be able to come to Africa to see what is happening, and the other way around. Also just discussed with the colleague from Dundee, or the universities could do much more in trying to get African young people. We talked about the Erasmus Plus program, so extension of the Erasmus Plus program to include African youth would be very, very, very important. And of course, AU and EU should see migration not as a danger, as a threat, but also as a possibility. That would be very important, but also, I think what has been several times underlined, migration is a chance. It gives a chance for some people to improve their knowledge, their experience, but it should not be the first choice in doing it. The first choice should be able to do in Africa and to extend the experience in Africa. And that includes, of course, mobility inside Africa. The ambassador told us about programs to promote mobility in Africa. There are still a lot of impediments in Africa itself. It's not only that people have difficulty to go from Africa to Europe, but sometimes inside Africa between different countries. Both EU and EU must promote much more the reality also about Europe. Europe is not a paradise. It's not a paradise for us, and it's less paradise for people who migrate into Europe from Africa, from other countries. So I think this kind of illusion, Victor just told us a story about how much money is paid by some people, even when they are told the chance to survive is very, very low because of the Sahara in between and the Mediterranean in between, the different militias in Libya, but still people are, because they think Europe is the paradise. I think we should be very open about that. EU and EU should address the root causes. Very often we are going to the symptoms, but the root causes why people try to emigrate, or why people are enforced to emigrate from their countries. So that is, I think, very, very important. Climate change has been mentioned. Climate change is a big threat to everybody, but more, of course, to the poorer countries and to the poor people in poorer countries. They cannot just say, okay, I leave because I built my house somewhere else. So climate change is an important issue. Both have to address the European Union and the EU, especially because still the enormous degradation of the environment is done by industrial countries. Especially if you see the pollution per person, it's much higher in industrial countries than in developing countries. Of course, we also ask them to develop again together a program of fighting human traffickers who are abusing the plights and the hopes of African youth. And we should also develop jointly EU a program for returnees. And what is also important, mentioned also this morning, diaspora, the cooperation between the diaspora and the people in Africa in order to give and to transfer knowledge, experience from Europe into Africa. And then, of course, EU must address discrimination, racism, and promote inclusion and gender equality. Inclusion is the word, also because you mentioned the question of disabilities, and it was also raised yesterday, which is also a very important element, especially if you're poor and if you're a migrant or if you're a refugee. Disabilities is even a stronger obstacle for integration unless it is promoted by public authorities. Then come briefly to the EU. The EU, of course, should, as I said at the beginning, should considering immigration not only as a threat, but should not give in the populist anti-migration policies promoted by some parties and media in the European Union itself. It should address the question of governance and help countries in Africa in order to reach a good governance system, capacity building, especially also for the younger, helping in the fight against corruption, because many European companies are part of the corruption system. It's not Africa is corrupt. It's a combination of European, of course, also other companies, and some African leaders, bureaucrats, whatever, in the corruption. Yes, and then one question, I think donations and support should be given also more to the region and local community, not only to the governments, because that's also true in Europe. It doesn't trickle down always to the people who need. And therefore it's very important also to have that address. Then about Africa, Africa should support youth initiatives and of course fund domestic leadership programs. That's very important. Africa must invest in the accessibility and sustainability of education, knowledge and skills, including life skills that are necessary, and also here we would mention again education and help for the disabilities. Africa should develop a viable industrial and sustainable agricultural sector. And we need both. We need a viable industrial sector. Africa has to produce more itself, not just import from other countries. so that they can export or can substitute imports. And in the agriculture sector, of course, as several have mentioned, it should be possible, and it is possible, that food security can be done by Africans themselves, and also ample supply of food. Of course, you have to adapt to the changing climate, you have to adapt to droughts and other things, but it can be done, and must be done in a way where also not only some big companies like Monsanto and others who come with genetically modified food destroying existing structures, but existing structures has to be slowly transformed into more productive agriculture without saying, again, some outside forces buying land and doing mass production with a lack of quality of food. Then one very important point, Africa should develop, promote the talents and create an environment where Africans can be proud of their own homeland and their own human resources, and immigration is seen as an opportunity, but not the first choice. And Africa should develop, and African countries should develop, also a marketing strategy. It was mentioned also today, some countries do it, but many countries don't promote that their own country has many assets, and not only mineral resources, but many other assets, including the human resources. And one colleague was telling us also yesterday, when he studied abroad, people thought, okay, we have to help him and hopefully he will succeed. In the end, he had better exam results than some of the Europeans, and they were very shocked and surprised. So I think there is a lot of initiative and possibilities in the country. And of course, the fight against corruption is an important one, and also against terrorism, but always to the roots of corruption, the roots of terrorism, not just go in military, kill some people, and then to think, oh, we killed the leaders of the terrorists. We saw that in the past, a new leader will arise if you don't go more into the deep and into the causes. So that would be, not formally, but the main conclusions from the discussions. We will now, of course, look in detail into all the lip charts we have here. We will send it out to you as far as you we can reach you, and give you a short time frame to say, look, this is missing or this is a wrong formulation, so that you are, we talked about ownership before, that you are the owners of it, not some organizations. So that would be very helpful if you could react relatively quickly to what we will send out after having corrected and so on. Yes, that's it. And then we all have to work how we can promote the ideas here. We are a small group. I don't want to repeat the comparison of the minister, because we have we have Jesus here, but not the Jesus with the 12 apostles. Yeah, I think we should not stop today, go home and say it was nice, but should really continue the work. How to continue, maybe we can now think about before we close our meetings and go for the last lunch. So I hand over to the organizers, how you will try to organize it.
Members were suggested that sustainability, the need for sustainability of livelihoods, and then they were suggesting that everything is interlinked, the linkages between the components that we were talking about, and then the innovation parks, for example, industries. People were giving an example of us having minerals, but the minerals, there is no value addition to the minerals. So they were saying it's not sustainable for the Western world to come and take the minerals and then not do the value additions, and then here people need the products. So sustainability is a component that was missing. And then the other issue was we should not focus only on the youth. There is an increasing number, for example, the people between 10 or 12 to 17 years that are transitioning to the youth, who are also a very big component of the population. also the definition of the youth was varying from different groups, and then we should integrate the early childhood as, for us not only to deal with the youth, we should integrate the early childhood development programs into the component while we are developing these initiatives and policies. When it comes to the second question, implementation, members were saying we should share information among ourselves and then to a wider public, as long to more people you can reach as individuals. The other issue is there is no one size fits all. It should be tailor-made. For example, Northern Africa is Islamic, and then Southern Africa maybe is more Christian. And then, so when we are developing these initiatives, they should be tailor-made to a specific region. We should have that component consideration. And then we should also, among the implementation, we should continue to network. For example, the minister was here. One was giving a recommendation that we should continue networking with him so that we ensure that what we have discussed about is implemented. When it comes to evaluation, what was good, the selection of participants was grim. The committee that selected the people to come and participate in the conference did a very good job. And then there has been an active participation. All members have been active. There was no domination by one party or the other. What was not necessarily bad, but what needs to be improved was the venue. And then recommendations, continuing to share information immediately after the conference. Members need to know, receive the information. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Group 1. What comes out specifically for me here is this group including children, because the youth today were once children. And so if we don't look back there and see how children are growing and then becoming youth, I think it will be a miss. So thank you so much, Group 1. Can we have Group 2?
The first issue is it is sharing the recommendation with the Bishop Conferences of Africa in the summit.
So since it is specific, I need to come in and share what is going on. The Bishops' Conference of Africa and Madagascar, Symposium of Episcopal Conferences of Africa and Madagascar, by the abbreviation called SECAM, is a continental body, the establishment of more than 600 bishops and cardinals, and it has recently signed the Memorandum of Understanding with the African Union and working closely with the African Union. Now, in relation to migrants and refugees, the Vatican's Migration and Refugees section has consulted the African bishops, the Latin American, Asians, and other European bishops' conferences. And they came out with a document responding to the migrants and refugees' concerns, which entails 4 specific points: welcoming the migrants and refugees, protecting their rights, and promoting and integrating. In this line, Pope Francis has signed the document on the 21st of August and sent out to the bishops' conferences. Now, the African bishops' conferences, SECAM, has taken up the responsibility to introduce these documents to the 8 regional episcopal conferences distributed out all over Africa. Now, SECAM specifically, as a high level of the church's body in Africa, is taking up the initiative to the African Union, as well as to contribute the church's part to the summit in Africa, EU summit in November. So that's how this conference has helped me in order to share the ideas and even to draft a kind of document to share with the bishops and so on. That's what the bishops sharing to the bishops conference.
And also, like we talk many things in these conferences whereby we can say that migrants or refugees, sometimes they see us as people can do things, but we say that we can maybe put some information about the rights of migrants and refugees. Then for these two topics, engaging the youth with the talents of like football, funding of the youth, it came one of our colleagues in the panels saying how they came up, whereby they were engaging youth in football in order to promote peaceful coexistence. And whereby we can say that there is many ways on how youth they can exteriorize their talent, they can try to do something so that they can promote this peaceful coexistence, they can promote their talents. That's why we said that we have to engage the youth with the talent, and also funding the youth-led initiative, because they are the one implementing, they are the one bringing visibility in the community. There is one of our group members that tell us how she's, especially in the camp whereby we found that two tribes, they are fighting each other. So we said that we have to put peace building in the refugee communities, and also networking with the other organizations. Like last year, Mira Group, IAN, and Commonwealth, we tried to work together, and we were in the peaceful International Peace Day. It was in September last year, whereby we come together for that event. And also like Yarid, now every year they always launch this soccer of peace. So that is the network within the youth-led initiative. So we're thinking how this local youth initiative, they can network with other youth led from outside the continent. And also, we talk about creating jobs for the youth, the online employment through a global platform. Also, there's something that I forgot that we have to share in social media. You know, we are into .com, so we have to share in social media the youth activities. And awareness. Yeah. Where this goes directly to AU, whereby they always talk about the wars in Africa, the famine. We're saying how AU can promote positively African continent. Okay. We talk about promoting the arts include industries like culture, theater. And also, like one of our colleagues said that in the settlement there's young girls, they are being raped. So when they go to the police to report, they spend the whole week reporting without any intervention. So I put there to promote girl child education, and also installing and specific officers to support vulnerable groups. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. I think what we pick from both groups is sharing the information and sharing these recommendations. And it's good that already there are networks like SECAM, where we're going to start sharing these ideas. And I think we should start identifying those networks where we can actually share this information for people to know and also to begin engaging in such discussions. Okay, can we have group 3?
So in our group, the recommendation that was missing is that implementation. I think you know what we mean here. Here we do a lot of writing, a lot of document, but we don't want them to be kept in the shelves. Let us implement them. Strengthening the mechanism for refugee protection and access to protection. Then there's need for more proactive involvement of the media houses. Like here, they only come for maybe opening and the closing remarks, or the closing of the ceremony. And we like maybe train them and maybe have some network where that these media houses can be part of us. They cannot be seen like people that we only engage when we need them. So they should be part of us. We should train them, and then we have maybe a network of media houses. Because these are the people that are at the end going to control the brains and the mind of everyone around us. Because the images they send and the words they write, you can see how Trump is changing life. Because by tweeting maybe at 3 a.m. in the morning, everyone is not following him. So it's the media that is controlling the world now. The next steps, we said African government should set up or strengthen ministries or departments just in charge of immigration. By setting up, we had like a heated debate here. Others were like, we have this department in our country, we have this ministry. So our mother was suggesting that we have a different ministry that is in charge of migration, immigration and non-migration, not just a desk like in the Ministry of Interior. Then sharing and dissemination of the information from the workshop, set up a strong monitoring mechanism and evaluation. Some of these things die just because we don't monitor them. EU sends money, they even don't know how the money is spent, who's using the money, and how what the results are. Like for instance, me, I was trained by right to play like in Bayfield Settlement. That was 15 years ago. And ever since then, they even never followed up. After 10 years, we realized that these guys, like, they instill some skills in us, like leadership skills, things like tolerance and involving like perseverance, but they did not even follow us. After when now one of us was appointed, then they came in and said, yeah, these are the guys that we trained last year. So we should keep on following up people and monitoring all the program that we implement. The program that we did here, we said what is everyone was involved actively. What didn't work was tight schedule. People said they came here on Sunday at night, very tired, they did not sleep. Then the following day on Monday, the program started. So there were also those you needed. Next time maybe we need to what? Then recommendation for future is that we need to have fewer panelists. Instead of having 8, we can have like 4 people, and we can have a lot of questions with them. Then more focused topic. Like the topics were wide, and then like somehow not clear. So people didn't know where to start from and what to share with us. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you, Group 3.
Thank you. I think we didn't work on all the points, but okay. So the first point that we talked about was the need for Europe, and I think it's been mentioned there, to assist Africa in protecting its mineral wealth and in having fair trade and fiscal policies with regard, for example, to tax evasion and these kind of things. That's very important. We also discussed about the fact that agriculture, we keep on talking about agriculture, that we need more sustainable agriculture and more viable and all this, but agriculture is very unattractive for young migrants, for young Africans, sorry, professional default, and that we need to work on our agricultural system to make it more attractive. Then what we took away, like our main takeaways, what we liked about the conference was to hear it. Well, that was mine, of course, coming from Europe. It was for me very nice to hear it from the source, to have the real African perspective and not always have to hear about theoretical concepts from a European perspective. So thank you for that. Then we also reinforced our support for the need for regional mobility in Africa. We know that it's a project that is underway, but we can only reinforce our support to this project. We didn't get to the... in what we said also is we joined the point about recommendation, implementation. I think there is this feeling in general that there are so many conferences in the world where we reach very great conclusions, and then in the end there is a lack of implementation from the leader side, which leads to frustration. In general, I can only talk for myself since we didn't get to this point, but I thought it was a really interesting conference and with great interventions, great panels, great discussions. But if anyone of my group wants to add something about this, I would gladly give the floor. Thank you.
Thank you very much, all the groups. Throughout this conference, people have been talking about different ideas, and one of the ideas that came out is give youth time and chance to speak out and to be involved in in matters that concerns them. So you have seen what you have presented. If there's anyone who wants to add something or comment or ask a question, please, let's use the next 3 minutes. 2 people or one, or yeah. Someone? Yes.
I'm Bizimana Kasuno Lucien from DRC. I want to thank these people who have tried to bring the youth together. Also, I want to thank those who have tried to think about refugees living in Uganda. And I know that this is one of the positive way of engaging refugees in different activities. I'm glad to be part of this conference, and I hope that this will not be my last time to attend a such conference. And the summary of this conference, I'm going to take it to my community. Together we shall try also to brainstorm about it in order to understand what is going on in the worldwide. Thank you very much for this kind of initiative for refugees.
I'm called Peter Katos. So I'm so glad for the God to set me free. Because I say this, I came away from South Sudan, whereby a lot of people even have lost their life. Now I'm in the camp. So why are we considering this terrorism in Africa to take a quick action to deal? But you can do a follow-up. Let the Africa suffer a lot. As we refugees, we suffer a lot. Why? And all you, EU and AU, you are our father and our mother. So because African Union and United Nations is our father, is our mother, and we are alive because of you. Here, I'm just even throw this one back to you, to Europe or where, to go and consider our boys. We African, we are suffering a lot. So let peace come to Africa as soon as possible. We shall feel at home. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. I would like us to, okay, one more. This is the very last. And 1 minute.
Yeah, I will be in the framework of time. I would like really to thank everyone, in particular who make this initiative happening. The International Institute for Peace of Vienna and Austria, and also Act.Now, and also above all Uganda, people and government who really offer us this good condition where we have really exchanged our views frankly, without any barrier, directly to the policy maker decision, whether directly or indirectly. And I'm very encouraged really by the views of youth, in particularly where they really they know what they want. What left is for us, for the institutions, to reflect what you have reached as a conclusion. How to do it, I will advise everyone who has any connection with government to advise their ambassadors in Addis Ababa to file to them this outcome. Then they will put it on the agenda of African Union when they are talking with European Union. And that should be very soon, because the summit will be in November in Cote d'Ivoire. And I'm very encouraged also by my brother from South Sudan when he said, we need a political solution. We need political solution because the conflict in Africa, it requires a solution and the efforts of everyone. And we need European Union to help us in finding a durable solution to conflict, wherever it might be. And I think it will be one of the points in the agenda in discussion. Of course, we understand very well the concern of immigration, and we need to cooperate in finding solutions mutually accepted between both of us. But I'm very also encouraged by someone said, you know, the immigration is just 2%, you know, not the issue. It's much more bigger than the immigration itself. I really take that on my notes to back to my colleagues in Addis Ababa. Really, it is a good initiative, and I would like to congratulate, you know, our friends, you know, from former member of European Parliament, member of European Parliament, all of you who made it really successful. Thank you so much. I said that because I'm leaving at 1 o'clock. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Right now, I would like to invite Hannes to go through that closing ceremony. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I don't want to have another speech. I just want to thank you. I want to thank all the colleagues who were organizing it, and I don't want to mention all the names because I forget somebody. Anyway, it was a very great conference, I think, and we just thought maybe you want to remember the conference. So there are two ways. One way is I think we should form in some way the NOW Kampala group, so that we have via internet, via Facebook, via maybe Twitter, of course, maybe also other forms, WhatsApp, whatever, so that we inform each other from our activities. Because I think it was such a let's say, sometimes even cozy cooperation, that it would be really, really bad if we just say goodbye. And one or two, of course, know each other. But I think we should have that kind of group across the Mediterranean to see that the cooperation is important. Not to fall into the Mediterranean, but to have that kind of cooperation. And the second one is that we have made a certificate for you that you participated. You know, you have probably at home a lot of, Victor especially, a whole room all with certificates. But I want to thank you personally for that. We can hand over to you. You just send the name. I don't know whoever is here, but
I'm Abi Samir. Abila Gerald. Adukule Winnie. Alupo Susan. Gidron, your turn.
your turn.
Simon Marrott.
Simon is out.
But he's here.
Alessi Maria. Badasu Delali. Bismana Luchen. James Christina. Ochen Victor. Namakula Jocelyn.
Thank you. Very, very
Nyoka Jen. Naila Nial Nyedina. He's serious, Mohammed. Casco Naomi. Yusuf Simbo.
Wow.
Willie Kumisa. Kata Moses. Nakajingwa Esther. Irakoze Conscience. Hunter Janine.
Tennis.
Kampogo Mary. Wald Johannes Baham.
Bishop of our group.
Essen Matthias. Diao Amy Bucket. Diao. Kalule Jennifer. Nancy Jude. Mirimana Bella. Angida Jessica. Okay. His Excellency Lamini.
He's an active excellence.
Got Koth Peter. Kantande Bonwell. Pirikati.
Implementations.
Simon Marat.
Oh, Simon.
He's now not here.
Anyone for finance? Who did I forget? Did you forget anybody? Yes.